All right, bang, bang. Today is Thursday. It is December 7th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. In studio guest today, I'm joined by Chicago Fire Department former Deputy Fire Commissioner of Operations, Mark Nielsen. Mark, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning.
Yeah,
Good morning.
a longtime parent of the neighborhood. I've known you
Yes.
probably my whole life.
Right.
So it's fun to do an interview here. Obviously, I just know you my whole life as he's the fire guy. He's the fireman. So, and I like you're. Like when people think, when they pull a poster, like a poster child of like a Chicago fireman, I think you kind of fit the bill, right? I was.
If you say so, Eddie.
Yeah, I was listening. I was walking through here with you, and one of the guys pulled me over and said, "Hey, who is that guy?" And they're like, "Oh, he's a, old Chicago fireman." He's like, "Oh, I love the look of him. He looks exactly. That's exactly what I would have pictured." So, great to have you in. I'm excited to chop it in, talk some fire, talk about what you're up to now. So when did you get on the job? What's how did it all start? Did you always want to be a fireman?
Well, I tell people all the time it started with the show called Emergency One. I don't know if you ever heard the show, or it was based in L.A., and it was two paramedics in this truck, and they went to fires, they went to EMS runs, but it really got me interested in the EMS world, and that's where I started. So right out of high school, I went to EMT school. That was in 1977, way before you were even thought of. And went to EMT school. I worked for the private ambulances, and a friend of mine that I worked with on the private ambulance kind of talked me into taking a fire test. At that time, you could basically sign up for the paramedic side of entry, if you will. Just put your name on a list, and you get called whenever. But for the fire side, there was an actual test involved, and you had to do it was a written test, very basic written test, and a physical agility test. So I took it, and I really didn't have a whole lot of interest in being a fireman. And then I got the call a couple years later, and the rest is kind of history. And I continued to go to school. I went to paramedic school, actually before being called by the fire department, but I was hired as a firefighter.
No shit. So there was no aspirations of like, I want to be a CFD. That's what I
Not really.
set out to do.
Not really. But once I got in the door, I said, "Oh God, this is the job I want."
This is it.
It's pretty cool.
This is where I want to be.
Exactly.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Lane Tech.
Okay. There we go. So Lane guy. So then you get out, 77 EMT. You get on, and what was the official first year? Like, when did you become a candidate? Like, when was your?
As far as the fire department,
like when did
1980.
Okay.
So
80.
February of 1980 is when I got hired, which was, I don't know if you know the history behind it. That was the year of the strike. There was a fireman's strike that year.
How does that work? I thought first responders aren't allowed to strike.
Well, technically not.
Yeah.
Technically not. So there was a strike. There was, at that time, when Mayor Byrne ran for mayor, she made promises to the fire department. And actually, I was not totally aware of what went on at that time. I really didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. But there were promises made, and they were contractual promises. Firemen didn't have a contract. They used to have a poster right before the strike, and they had this poster. They had two examples. They had a garbage truck, City of Chicago garbage truck, with 3 men on the back step of that truck, and then they had a fire engine with 2 men on the back of it. And and it basically said, "Where's the city? Where's the city's priorities here?" Mm-hmm. So that was the issue. They wanted a contract, and they wanted manning. That was the push. So again, I was on the list, and it wasn't the best situation, but I got the call during the strike. It was actually a week into the strike, and I got a call from personnel. And initially, I said, "No, I don't want it. I don't want to cross a picket line. I don't want the job." But then I started seeing friends of mine coming on the job that were lower, had a worse position on the list, and we were getting calls from personnel pretty much threatening that after 3 calls, you're done. You're off the list. So, made this decision to go ahead and go in, and there were 800 of us, and that's a significant amount of people. When you look at the overall Chicago Fire Department, that represented a whole shift of what's on duty on any given shift. There are 800 people, so it's a lot of people.
That's a ton.
Yeah,
What was your academy wacky then? Because
The
people
academy was totally wacky.
Yeah.
We had our regular academy. We had satellite training sites, which is what I went through, which was nothing more than just a firehouse, but had a couple of instructors in it. And then we had another satellite location that was a police facility that was used. And then there were a lot of guys that were totally not trained until later. So probably up until maybe a year and a half to 2 years. So a lot of it was on the job training.
What were people doing? People were just like.
So you had a lot of guys. I was not inclusive, but there were a lot of people that just hired right away, given fire gear, and sent out. And initially the game plan was they were going to like pick up hose after a fire, that kind of thing. But when I talked to them later, those guys were actually. They're fighting fires and totally on the job training.
Fucking guys probably didn't even know how to put on their helmets yet.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean,
that's crazy.
Gear back then was a lot less important than what it is today because of the fuels and the plastics that we encounter. It was pretty simplistic. You put a helmet on, you put a coat on your boots. You had 4 components, and breathing apparatus wasn't even. It was around, but it actually wasn't used a whole lot. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Now you say 800, and that's an astronomical amount for anyone who follows like how it all works. And I don't know. I'm obviously from here, so I've always followed the police and the fire academies and how the numbers and whatnot. Now it's probably like what 100 to 150-ish maybe for a class.
For a class,
yeah.
So 150 is exceptionally large.
Uh-huh.
So we have a new training facility on the west side. I don't know if you know about it. I don't even know what the facility will accommodate, but the old academy on DeKoven really. Logistically limited to maybe 100 people.
Okay.
But there's been classes of 150 and bigger. It just totally where you have lockers in the hallway, that kind of thing, temporary lockers. So it's not designed for that. The new academy probably is.
Will be bigger, yeah. But so obviously you think of fire too, and like I said, anyone who's ever applied for the job or anyone who's ever wanted to be one, it has become like damn near impossible. It's a lottery. It's quite literally a lottery to get on the job.
It is somewhat of a lottery. I always tell people that are truly interested in being a firefighter, there's 2 steps that you can take that not really guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee, but certainly make your chances a lot better. Join the military, even if it's the reserves, or become a paramedic first. Become a paramedic, come on the fire department as a medic, and then cross over. There's a contractual agreement that a certain number of medics have to be inclusive, that are single-role medics that have to be on the fire side for every class.
Okay.
So that pretty much guarantees eventual hire. The one issue that gets in the way is age. So we have an age restriction, and it's 38. You can't be 38 years of age. So that gets in the way of some people. But if you're a young person coming on as a medic, say you're 20-something years old, and you take the fire test, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get hired.
Because I think I know they had somewhat of a test recently, but I think the one before that was like 2013 or something like that. I want to say.
I think you're right. I think that's the one that my sons actually got hired off of, the 2013.
And so, like, if you're listening, they worked off that list for like a decade.
That's the other issue.
Yeah.
Lists are up too long. In my opinion, they shouldn't be. Same thing with promotional exams. We have them up for an ungodly number of years. They've gone beyond 10 years, which is not. It's not a healthy thing for the fire department. For one, if you shorten that duration and for promotions and for entrance, tear it down after 2 years, 3 years, you're getting the cream of the crop. You're getting the best of the best. Right now we keep the list up, and I don't know why. There's no rhyme.
And it's almost like there's so many people that take the test, they barely make a dent to it. At least that's the way it seems. Like I think I remember, because we have a guy here too, one of the guys who's always on the podcast, Danny. He got the acceptance letter, and he's like, "Congratulations, you're 18,731 out of 18,000.
Yeah, good luck.
888. You're just screwed." So,
join the army, kid.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, what did they maybe only made it like 3,000 down that list or something?
Or somewhere around there. I don't have an exact figure, but that's typical. We'll get into that. range.
Yeah.
I really don't know where we're at right now, but yeah, 8,000 is not
which is
not going to be doable.
Pretty wild that you were 800, and out of 10 years, 3,500 or so, give or take, is what came out. So was it just easier to get on back in the day for you guys? Like, what was it, less strict kind of lottery?
The test was definitely different. Now it's become a lottery, literally a lottery. And the test that I took was a written test that a fifth grader could pass, basically a reading level of fifth grade. Okay, you're good to go. You can read at a fifth grade level, and don't quote me on that level. It was very low. Very low grade level. And then there was an agility part, and that was a competitive part. And it was an agility test. One of the parts of the agility test was hanging on a bar. You had to hang on a bar. Your chin couldn't touch it, and as soon as your arms were fully extended, your time was up. But that time frame was competitive. So you got points for each component of it. That seemed to be the one component that made or broke people, the ability to hang on a bar. And there were, I guess later on, there were probably experts that stated that, why does a fireman need to hang on a bar? What's the purpose of it? Does it have any real reason? But the reality is, we were seeing people that were fit, and the job's physical. No matter what you're going to say, we do have another component that has been added to it, and that's the EMS part of it. So, in fairly recent years, we have to be an EMT, where years ago there was no EMT requirement or paramedic requirement. It was purely a firefighter job, and it was physical. And I think we're getting good people. I always tell, we had a candidate when I was actually a fire engineer, and he was a phenomenal candidate as far as his ability. He was able to do all the functions of a firefighter. And at that time, you had to do what's called the Firefighter 1 level before you left the academy. And then you had to pass Firefighter 2 before your year. Well, he didn't pass. We found out later he couldn't read. Right. So, and if he had been upfront about that, he could have got added help, taking a test, if you will. But that was the level of firemen that we would typically get. Not all of them, but as far as reading level, it was probably lower than normal with a lot of people. In his case, I don't know, he might have got lucky on the entrance exam as far as the reading level, but phenomenal firefighter physically. And in my opinion, he should have been on the job, but he was let go after a year. Yeah.
But to even get to that point, though, because we're talking, that's the amount of people, like whatever the number I gave, were the amount of people that were just given the opportunity to try to get to, well, not all of them got through, I should say, but the amount of people that got through, obviously, the classroom portion and the physical portion. How many people, was it easy to get to that point, I guess?
No, I would say not.
No.
I mean, you probably had more applicants back then. You probably had, I remember hearing figures of like 25,000 people that took an exam. So there were preferences given to military even back then. I think the preference for military is even greater now. I don't know exactly what it is. I have heard statistics that every person on the list that was military has been hired already. I don't know if that's a fact or not, but I've heard that. So, put you in a pretty good position if you had a military background of some type.
Is there like a long-standing joke with them among the old-timers who did that test about the hanging bar?
Oh, I'm sure there is. Yeah. Because right now, and they made that transition, I believe, in like 1995, where they took the agility out of it. It wasn't competitive, and they made it what they have now, a physical standard. And when they did that, I was a captain of a company on the south side, and one of our firefighters, he was probably the most out of shape guy and smoked, and he was one of the people that they used to set that standard.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So we kind of joked about that. They're going to use you to set the standard. So the standard was set, and it's very very basic. I mean, it doesn't take much to pass it. And then they went to what's called a CPAT test, which which I think, and it's a nationally recognized standard, that really everything has been looked at as far as, okay, you need to do this because, it fits the description of a firefighter, what he needs to do, what he or she needs to do. So that's what's used right now, the CPAT exam.
And that's like a lot of stairs, correct? And it's
there's a stair climber, and you got to wear a vest, a weighted vest. And I've never taken it, but I heard that's the hardest part, the hardest component. But it's a very doable test, and it has practicality. There's reason behind each of the components. So
that's like recognized from Chicago to Mesa to
everywhere and it's been tested by the courts. Very accepted. Very accepted.
Do you think it's in your eyes? Is it I mean, there is no end all be all. Like, this is how it should be. But do you think it's a good test for right now?
I do.
To qualify.
I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, I wish we didn't have that the random lottery portion.
Yeah.
Just make make something competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Give a person control, because right now a guy, and I've seen it throughout my career, people that are so involved in the fire service, and they start out at a very young age and they want to be a firefighter, and now they take this test and it's randomized. Give the candidate more control.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting too is obviously growing up, or I grew up, and obviously where you raise your kids, Northwest side, Southwest side, like that's it is a dream job for a lot of people.
Absolutely,
it really is, and there's a realistic thing where like they won't even get a chance to sniff that position,
which is sad.
It's very sad. So is it like, how in your eyes is it? Like, that's crazy that it's not based on merit. Like, obviously, you are very high up. You are in these discussions. Are these things talked about? Where it's
amongst us,
yeah.
I mean, the people that actually have control, like city personnel, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's other objectives, that the city has as far as hiring. Mm-hmm. That in my objective, hire the best. I mean, if I'm hanging out a window on the third floor, I want the best, strongest individual that can get that ladder up to me as quick as possible, and forget all the other bullshit that gets in the way of it, the political stuff.
Yeah, it just seems goofy. Like how like it's not and don't get me wrong. Obviously, everyone who goes through and makes it past, they've obviously passed the test, classroom portion, everything, but to not give these people the jobs who are like based on merit out of the gate, and you got to rely on hitting,
exactly.
your social security number is the right number.
Exactly.
It's fucking bizarre.
It's
to
bizarre.
be honest with you, it really is. So
it is.
I don't like who. So is that like a mayoral call? Like who makes that call?
I would imagine ultimately, mayor's staff, the mayor, of course, yeah. I mean, in my career, I've seen a lot of moves that I find out later that the mayor actually was unaware of. So it's a lot of staff members of the mayor that makes these decisions, and for whatever reason. But no, I don't agree with it.
Yeah. All right, hey, let's pause for a second because this episode is brought to you by MUGSY. Listen, if you don't know out there, MUGSY makes the most comfortable jeans, chinos, shorts, and joggers ever. I stand by them. Like, everyone in the Chicago office is wearing them. They got this like buttery, soft, patented stretch material, and it's like, it looks stylish, but it's comfortable. So if anyone out there is looking for a new pair of jeans this holiday season, I can't recommend MUGSY enough. We got a promo code for you, and you get a little discount as well. That's important. Everyone likes a discount. But honestly, they have some of the best product that we get here at Barstool. It's definitely one of the best perks we have is work with MUGSY. They're great. So if you head to mugsy.com and get 10% off now when you use code Chicago, there's 10% off some of the most premium jeans, chinos, swimwear, and shorts on the internet. MUGSY also offers free shipping and returns, so there's absolutely no risk giving them a try. And obviously, we're talking to a Chicago fireman today. I'm sure a lot of people are local in Chicago here. They got a store right on Armitage, so you can just pop in right there, right across from Kincaid's. Go grab yourself some jeans, chinos, swimwear, shorts, whatever. Honestly, you guys won't be let down at all. They're going to be great for you for Christmas Eve, New Year's, whatever. MUGSY will be there for you. So go check them out. 10% off some of those premium jeans, chinos, swimwear, and shorts on the internet. Like I said, MUGSY also offers free shipping and returns, so there's no risk giving them a try. And like I said, if you're in Chicago, Boston, D.C., or Austin, Texas, make sure you head downtown, check out their storefront, and you'll have an easy time while you shop, and you can enjoy a beer as well. So go check out MUGSY. They're great, everyone. I stand by them like I keep saying. So yeah, go check out MUGSY, and let's get back into the interview. One thing I've always found fascinating, too, is how when these people get out of the academy, and obviously I have a lot of friends, a lot of people I've grown up around join it. There's a sense of like everyone wants to get to so-called a busy house, a place that sees fires. And sometimes you run across people who are like, why would you want to do that? Like,
Exactly.
what makes you want to do that? Could you explain the logic behind
Sure.
someone
So
wanting to work at a busy house?
fires are down. We don't respond to a lot of fires. So you spend the 6 months in the academy training and learning the trade. When you finish it, you want to practice it. You want to do the stuff that you learned. So if you go to a slow house, it's not like it's going to happen in time, but it's not as frequent.
Mm-hmm.
So much of what we do in the fire department is actually EMS related. Much of what we do. I don't have a stat, but it's probably close to 75% of our runs are EMS related. That's fire companies.
That's like a lady's having shortness of breath or something like
exactly.
that. Mm-hmm.
Actually. And it's all important. It's all good stuff. But, people coming out of the academy, most of them, they want to practice what they learned.
Mm-hmm.
And, crawling through hallways and leading out hose, throwing ladders, that kind of stuff.
When you put it like that, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If you're trying to be an electrician, you don't want to sit there and respond to, putting an outlet cover on.
No. Now, when I came on the job, the mindset, well, because of the age, and that's another factor. You got to look at the age of the average firefighter. So when I came on, the average age was actually in the 40s. They're pretty old. So there comes a point where a firefighter might say, after 20 years on a busy company, okay, I'm going to go out to Cumberland and the Expressway and take it easy, or go out to O'Hare Airport.
Yeah.
And there were more people that were looking for spots like that then. So the busy spots were actually open.
Okay.
But it's not the case now.
It's changed a lot.
It's
now.
changed. It's
what do you know, like roughly what the demographics are now, age-wise? Like what's the...
we're definitely a younger department. I don't have an age, but we're definitely younger. Again, the factor that's making the age upward is the fact that there was a test in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to be, I think, 18 in order to take the test then.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're looking at 10 years later or 11 years later. So you're going to have an older group, and they have a class. They have a class that's starting, I think, this month, I believe.
And you said fires are down. Do you know what, something? Do you have a number with that, or if?
I don't have an exact number, but I can give you reasons behind it.
Yeah.
One, since I came on the job, smoke detectors, big factor. Cell phones. So smoke detectors pretty much did not exist when I came on the fire department.
Really?
Didn't have them.
That's fucking hard for me to.
I mean, if they were around, they were rare. Maybe hardwired systems in commercial buildings, that type of thing. You had detection, more heat detection, but the smoke detector that we know today didn't exist. Cell phones didn't exist. So you have early warning. You have smoke develops in the house. You get a smoke detector that goes off. You had people that are on a cell phone and they see something that looks like a fire, they report it. Where years ago they had to wait till they got to a pay phone or wait till they got home to report that fire. I think general awareness is up. Buildings that have sprinkler systems, definitely up. Now in the city of Chicago, more than half of the high-rises in the city of Chicago were not sprinkled when I came into the job. Now, there's been since the mid-'70s that a building being built, a high-rise building, had to be sprinkled, but anything prior did not have to be retrofitted. That came later, where commercial buildings had to be retrofitted as far as sprinkler systems. So, a lot of factors: more sprinkler systems, smoke detectors, cell phones. Those are big.
The sprinkler thing makes sense. I get that all came later, but I did not realize that. Like you're telling me, the '80s people weren't using smoke detectors.
We didn't have them. Yeah.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Late
'80s they were around.
Was there like a big national push or something to like get them going, or do you remember when?
Well, there were national pushes. There were local ordinances that came about. Yeah, both.
Like late 80s, 90s?
Oh, they were around then.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, definitely. I'm talking about when I came on the job
you.
in 90, they were non-existent.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy that there were no smoke detectors.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just such a second nature thing now.
It is, yeah.
So I guess that would make a lot of sense. What's the number one cause for a fire?
Well, it's still cooking. It's a misconception. I mean, it was really a toss between smoking and cooking back in the day. The misconception is that a cooking fire isn't a fire like we think of. It's a smoke condition. It's popcorn in the microwave, that type of thing. So, but it's classified and goes down as a fire.
Gotcha.
But as far as, cooking, smoking materials, common.
Yeah.
Another common one, and it's kind of a pet peeve of mine, that combustibles too close to heating devices like hot water heaters and furnaces, that type of thing.
Yeah, people just
That's
put stuff.
That's an issue.
Yeah. So just, do you, when you're watching these videos of people fucking deep frying turkeys, are you just like...
I'm a turkey deep fryer.
Are you? Well, you know, I mean, I would say you know what you're doing, though. But some of these assholes are just dropping the bird in, and they're not thinking twice. And it's like, hey, pal, like that could go wrong fast.
First of all, don't do it indoors or anywhere near your house, okay?
But, like, I think, and that's what talking to people, too, I think people would be shocked at how many people are doing shit like that, like grilling in their garage.
There's a picture on Facebook of someone setting up a turkey fryer in their kitchen.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know if it's true or not. But
yeah, but it's endless. It's endless of what could happen. Let's kind of get into the Firehouse situation. So, give or take, a large house in Chicago has how many guys?
Oh, you're looking at
Guys and
15 or more is a large house. I mean, for instance, there's a house downtown that's got a truck, engine, squad, a command van, an ambulance. So, yeah, you're getting into 20s. There's a couple O'Hare houses that are probably in excess of 25 members in the house. That's a big house.
But that's 25, and then there's 3 shifts, right?
There's 3 shifts.
Got you. So you're talking
25 on duty at one time.
So you're talking like 75 firefighters at one house.
Well, actually more than that.
Okay.
So you have to accommodate for days off. Mm-hmm. So a typical roster, like on an engine company, is going to have 21 members on that roster, and only 5 are on duty at one given time. So, you have 3 platoons, and then you have people that are off for various reasons, vacations and so forth. So, but you have 21 on the roster. Now, if there's overage on a given day, which there is, like you got no one on furlough or whatever, they go elsewhere. They get detailed. So they go to a place where there's a shortage for the day.
Ah, got you. So you're kind of like a
So it's all balanced out.
You get sent wherever.
Citywide.
Explain that for me again. That might be a dumb question, but so you said truck, engine, and then what else?
A squad. I mean, there's other apparatus that we have. Those are probably the main.
So what's the difference between?
So an engine is got hose and water. It's got a 500-gallon tank. Those are the guys that are crawling down the hallway and getting to the seat of the fire and putting water on the fire. That's what they do. Then there's a truck company. Now, they both have ladders, so there's always that misconception, because the engine has a smaller ladder. It's a 24-foot ground ladder. It hangs on the side. The truck has got a big, usually 100-foot aerial ladder. It's a big main. It's a 100-footer typically, and a lot more ladders. And their job is to ventilate, do search and rescue, forcible entry. They're the guys that open the door to get the engine guys in.
No, I mean, honestly, and they both kind of look the same, right? They're big and they're red, like we've seen when we were kids.
They are big and red. Look for the giant ladder on the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the giant ladder on the top is
the truck.
That's the truck.
That's a truck.
And if it doesn't have that, that's the engine.
It's an engine.
No
so
shit.
You're probably the first thing you're going to see on the engine on the top of the apparatus is a deck gun. It's a nozzle.
Okay. So do most people want to be truck or engine?
I would say most people want to be. I can't speak for. I always wanted to be on a truck.
Okay.
I always wanted to be on a truck. It's a lot more fun. You're on your own. Where an engine, you're kind of sticking together. You got a hydrant man. He's doing his thing, and then the other 3 members are leading out the hose, and they're kind of together. Mm-hmm. Where the truck members kind of disperse, and they're doing other things like we got 2 guys going to the roof right away from the truck. You got a couple guys that are doing search and rescue, forcible entry, that kind of thing. Little more freedom, if you will.
Gotcha.
Then you got the squad company, and the squad kind of fills in the blanks. They kind of do whatever else is needed.
Yeah.
And the squad is actually a dual in Chicago. It's 2 apparatus, two rigs that run together.
Huh.
One is a snorkel. So
Okay.
another oddity of Chicago. It actually came from Chicago.
What is it? What do you mean by
So
that?
it's an articulating boom. Some people call him a cherry picker.
Oh, okay.
Cherry picker.
Okay.
So
Makes sense for people.
it was brought to the city of Chicago by our commissioner Quinn way back when, and he actually borrowed one from Streets and Sand, and he strapped hose to the boom and put a nozzle up in the basket to kind of experiment with the idea, and it caught on. So
Interesting. And then obviously Chicago, you guys abide by the 24 on, 48 off policy. Is that pretty national? Was there a lot of?
There are some departments, New York City, that has a different schedule. I think they call it a 14-12 schedule, a little bit different, but it's pretty common. It's pretty common. Now, the oddity of Chicago is that we have a 24 on and a 48 off, but EMS is on a 4-platoon system. They work a day and they're off 3. So, little different.
Yeah. And why is theirs different?
Well, initially that was proposed to everybody, and actually the firefighters voted against it. I think the major concern was that there were furlough changes. There were differences in furlough with that schedule, and there were a lot of older members at the time that didn't want to lose the furlough, or I'm sorry, younger members at the time that didn't want to lose furlough time. So
That's the way they went. And it's 24 hours. I mean, that's a long time with a group of people. If you don't like the people you're on shift with, are you kind of screwed?
you are screwed.
Yeah.
Now, that's another reason for going to a busy house. You go to a busy house, the tendency is there's a lot less argument, and there's a lot less concern over petty stuff.
Yeah.
Where you go to a place where you're not going out the door, every little thing is an argument.
Yeah. What's like the number one thing people complain about?
Don't sit in my chair.
Oh, so it's a lot of like seniority type of shit.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah?
It's just little petty pickiness that you don't see in a busy firehouse.
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
see.
yeah.
Everyone's there for the same purpose. Everyone's jumping in.
Yeah.
Nobody has to be told what to do.
Gotcha.
Guys are doing it because they want to do it.
Yeah.
It's a different atmosphere.
And so slower house, it's like, hey, that's my chair. I'm eating first. I'm going to bed. That's how it is.
Exactly.
Huh. And what I honestly so interesting now, because to pass the time, you're just watching the Cubs game, you're watching whatever, like, is that like you're cleaning up, you're like, what else can you do?
Jerry Springer.
Yeah, Jerry
Right?
Springer, for real.
Yeah.
Because there's not much, but a lot of these things are like kind of like sweet at this point though, right? They got gyms, they got basketball hoops.
We do.
You guys got like everything.
We do.
That's
yeah. I mean, there are plenty of things to pass the time. There are things that you're supposed to be doing. There's supposed to be housework done. Mm-hmm. We got a cook that's going out. He or she is coming back with groceries and needs help. You're always going to get help. Mm-hmm. So there's cleanup after meals. There's workout time, like you said. Companies are supposed to go out and do actual fire inspections, too. That's another duty that they're supposed to do on it. And the other thing that we do that we're supposed to do is drill. We're supposed to practice.
Yeah.
That's not always done in the slow places, though.
No, it just depends on who's the boss on shift that day.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. If you really think about it, like obviously it's been around forever, so you don't really think about it second nature, but how many jobs are there where you're living with the people you work with?
Yeah, it is a different environment. I mean, I tell people, where I lived and so forth, but I spent a third of my life on the West Side, being, on West Side companies. So
real, yeah.
It's literally your second home.
Exactly. So obviously you lived a while. Well, I've known you on the Northwest Side by Hiawatha Park, but now you're
sure a third of my life I've been elsewhere.
Yeah, that's kind of funny to look at
Sure.
it that way for sure. But what I find interesting too is how your day and age, you didn't have these. You didn't have the cell phone. So where now everyone's sitting there, scrolling Twitter, Instagram, whatever. What, like, you guys just what were you doing? Like, how different was that?
You want to be in a busy spot. You want to be going out the door.
Yeah.
So that was something that you were hopeful for. And I'm going to be honest, and I've told my kids this a million times, we didn't go out the door as much as they're going out the door today. Mainly, we didn't do EMS runs at all. So if we had 5-6 runs in a day, that was pretty much the norm on a busy company.
Really?
It was a busy company.
So that's still, like, you're still there a decent amount, depending on how long the runs are.
Right.
But that's still a
They were short-lived usually.
Yeah.
Maybe, hopefully, it sounds weird, hopefully you get a fire.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get a fire.
Yeah, that is weird. Now, because I was going to say, too, it's kind of a drag when you get called out for an EMS run now, even though, like, obviously your duty is to serve and, help the community, help the city. But
sure.
Yeah,
it gets monotonous. Yes. And to be honest, most of the EMS runs are bullshit. They're bullshit. They're people calling for a hangnail, and they usually make that call at 3:00 in the morning, and that's one of the issues. If it was a true emergency every time, I don't think there's a firefighter out there that would dispute going out the door and helping out. But it typically isn't.
Yeah, that's.
I'm gonna tell you another thing that we do too that we didn't do in my day when I was a firefighter. When I was a blue shirt, we call them a blue shirt.
Yeah.
We call it
blue shirt is like you're
a firefighter.
Got you. So you're just a regular fireman.
Assist the invalid. It's a type of a run that developed over the years. So at some point there was some kind of city service that dissolved and went away, but there's people that can't go down the stairs and need assistance going down the stairs to get to a doctor's office appointment, which is fine. Or they need assistance. They've fallen out of bed, for instance. They need help getting back in, which is great. But it's gotten to the point where this service has been abused big time. And I've heard stories when I was in the upper echelon. I've heard stories from firehouses where a person actually called. They almost made a call on a daily basis, sometimes more than once a day. And one particular lady called, and when the fireman got there, she said, "Can you get my remote over there?" That was her objective. Bring me the remote. Had another one that wanted a cigarette lighter that she couldn't get to. Give me a cigarette lighter. So that kind of stuff is abusive. There's got to be a better way.
There's got to be.
Got to be. I mean, we don't mind doing, but when it's the same person all the time for things that they shouldn't be calling for.
So how does that work though? Because I always think about how slow the city at large is with everything, not just, not saying the fire department is, but, with getting things passed and getting, this to go. Do you guys have a unilateral call? Can you guys change that? Or obviously people are always going to abuse systems. There's really not a perfect way to handle that.
I mean, we've attempted to change it. And one of the issues, and it'd be nice to see some kind of city service develop. But of course, money is involved. Money gets in the way. So if you could have maybe a couple people in a van, for instance, that could provide this service, or maybe a couple vans throughout the city, just to do that type of thing, lift assist or carry people up and down the stairs.
Yeah, if there was something like that. You said something there that was interesting. You said they would take more chances. Obviously, every time you go into a fire, there's a chance, right?
Of course.
What do they teach you though about taking a scary chance or rolling the die? What do they teach you when it's here is when would be a good moment, or is it just kind of feel? It's kind of up to you.
I mean, it is a matter of experience, and you kind of learn, what conditions we don't belong in. You look for signs as far as smoke. We call it reading smoke. You're reading the smoke. You're looking for turbulence coming out of that building with the smoke. You're looking for velocity of that smoke, the color of the smoke. Those are all indicators that, kind of give you an idea of, should we be taking a chance here? And it really boils down to is going into places without water, without a hand line. So, with water, we're going to go pretty much anywhere. But there's truck and squad members that might take risk and chances on the floor above the fire. But that's what they're looking at. They're looking for smoke conditions, the color, velocity, the turbulence, and what that smoke looks like, and what the probability of what we call a flashover. And you don't want to be in that condition. So if you can get in, make a quick, grab, we call it, grabbing a victim. And there's always risk involved. There's some risk, but we try to manage it to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't work out. Most of the time it does.
Now, is that something like regular people should know? Or it's kind of like, hey, no, if you see any type of fire, get the hell out of there.
Yeah, get the hell out of there. Yeah.
That's interesting. Like, how much of are you guys taught about like that kind of, because I was unaware of the many different forms of smoke.
Looking at smoke, I mean, it's something we teach fire behavior in the academy, and we try to, re-emphasize that throughout the career. Another main thing, as far as being safe, is our protective gear. So, again, I told you earlier, our protective gear when I came on a job had 4 components, and there was no instruction with it. You put the helmet on, you put the coat on, you put the boots on, you went in. We are in a different environment, and what makes fires much more dangerous now than what they were are plastic synthetics. I mean, these things burn at an incredible rate, causes flashover to occur sooner without warning, and we need to be prepared for that. So wearing protective gear is a major objective in the academy, how to put that gear on and wear it right.
So a flashover, could you explain that a little bit?
It's when you see actual fire flame at the ceiling level. Well, that's a rollover. Flashover is when all the combustible components, any fuel in a given room or space, ignite. That's flashover. Okay. So everything in the room lights up.
Yeah, and it's just
right before that you see rollover. So rollover is where you have flame at the ceiling level, and that's a condition where you need to take action right now as a firefighter. You need to put water on that or get out. And if you have water available, you're going to open that nozzle right now
and put it up,
and start to cool that environment so flashover doesn't occur. Now, if you're a truck or squad member that's doing a search above that fire and rollover occurs, it's time to get out, time to move, because flashover's next.
That's it. So once everything goes, there's no...
When flashover occurs, you have very limited protection.
Yeah.
If you're, I mean, we're talking seconds. You have seconds to get out.
Wow.
And that's assuming you're fully protected.
Whereas if a different scenario where it's like, oh, it's just contained in the kitchen to like the stove area, then you guys could kind of move around. And
we're going to get water on that location right away.
Yeah.
And the other key thing is communication between people that might be doing a search above. We're going to communicate to those people. Hey, we got water on the fire. Or hey, we haven't found a fire yet.
Yeah.
And it makes them aware, of how far they can go.
How were you like terrified to walk into your first fire? Like that seems.
I guess you are. Yeah. I mean, it sounds weird, but adrenaline rush. You get that adrenaline rush, and you want it again, and it's actually kind of cool. Again, back when I came on, we had quite a difference in fuels. That is the breaker, the game changer. Is what we encountered, because back then it was wood, wool, and cotton. That's what was burning. Now everything's synthetic, and it behaves differently. So with the older fuels, we had warning signs that would occur. Okay, let's get out, and we got out. And
damn, so there was probably like a little mini era there where like the synthetic stuff was getting more popular, where you guys were just completely caught off guard by how the fire was behaving.
Yes, absolutely, right? Caught off guard. Yes.
Pretty bad time.
Correct. I mean, we had, and we still do. I mean, we still have, throughout the nation, we still have people that are caught probably in positions that they shouldn't be in, and because of that early development. Yeah. I'm sure you heard of Underwriter Lab. Underwriter Lab they did a study, and they showed 2 side-by-side scenarios of older furnishings and the newer stuff. Same size room, same size everything. It's like a living room. And they light it at the same time. And flashover occurs with the newer stuff in literally 3 minutes. Where the older stuff, it slowly develops, and it's more like a half hour before you get flashover.
Really?
Yeah.
See, now that's very surprising to me, because you hear about the old way and how, like, oh, things were just more wooden. There was less, like, what was it? Last Friday, there was 65 years since the Our Lady of the Angels fire.
Correct.
You know, and that's what you hear is all the staircases and everything was wood. And I actually had a historian on that kind of explained and broke everything down for me a couple of years ago on the show.
Sure.
So I would have been under the thought process that, like, back then it was worse.
That was probably a relative. I mean, it was in the stairwell. And if you recall, there were a lot of students and nuns at the time that basically they didn't leave.
Yeah.
They stayed in the classroom. Yeah. So, I mean, there any kind of catastrophe like that, there's usually a major change that occurs later. Yeah. And the change that occurred with the Our Lady of the Angels fire is required drills. Required drills. Just get out, and that's our objective now.
Yeah, that's another thing that is hard to fathom wasn't around, you know. But and then I remember it was something with fire alarms too. It didn't go out. Like, I think they just called or something back then. I don't know. I forgot what he said, but there was something unique about how fire alarms they were a little different when they went to when you got the notice at the firehouse. Have you had any close calls in a fire?
Yes. In fact, for my retirement, there was a picture that was used on the flyer, and it was actually an extra alarm fire, and it was at Ohio and like Spalding-ish, right around there. So Kedzie and Ohio area. And it was a big apartment building, and we had been there for a long period of time, and there was a ladder up on the wall. And one of the chiefs told myself and another couple firemen to move it, get it away from that wall. We literally took the ladder down, and 3 floors of wall came down right now as soon as we were like a couple feet away.
Whoa.
Couple feet away. We could feel the ground vibrate when it hit. And we all looked at it, and a pile of bricks, and we were just there like seconds ago. And we got this ladder in hand still. That's one. I mean,
how fast did it fall? Was it like you guys would have had no shot to get out of there?
You didn't even see it. You felt it. You heard it. You felt it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. That's how quick it came down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's been probably a few situations similar to that. That's one that really kind of made an impression on me.
Stuck with you?
Yeah. And if you notice the picture, I'm pale. I'm pale in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no blood flow to the brain. So,
and I'm sure that's like what you're taught all the time with, like, how fast everything can happen.
It definitely. It's rapidly changing.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the whole job is about risk management. That's what it boils down to. How much risk are you willing to take?
Yeah.
You know. So,
have you ever unfortunately been in a fire where someone died in the line of duty?
I have not had a line of duty death. I've been close to people. We had, when I was a lieutenant, one of the firefighters that was one of our candidates, a young guy coming on the job, died in a church fire. I want to say, I'm trying to think back. Never at a fire where had a, thank God. I mean, that was one of the things I definitely didn't want to have to go through, was a line of duty death. And there were plenty of them, especially in the early part of my career throughout the city. Mm-hmm. But no, not personally.
Is there like a protocol where that you guys, like, because I imagine the whole house is obviously like torn apart by something like that. Is there like a whole protocol where you guys like help them out, or how does that work?
So we just had a recent line of duty death, as you know, and we've had 4 this year. And this is something that didn't happen years ago, but I'm glad that it is happening because the next day after the funeral, everybody in that house was off. The fire department made it so they're giving people off.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
It's probably coming from the commissioner.
Yeah.
And it's a good practice. Yeah.
I think so too.
So and I think counseling was almost unheard of back in the day, but that's certainly in place now. So
yeah. Jeez. And 9/11, what was that day like for you? Were you one of those guys that went to New York? Or?
I wanted to. I eventually went. I'll explain that. So on the day of 9/11, I was actually a battalion chief, and it was a day where we were getting new self-contained breathing apparatus, which doesn't happen often. So it probably every 20 years or so we get new breathing apparatus. So we had a location that for our battalion at basically Grand and Laramie area, and that was going to be the location of distribution. So I was there kind of watching over, and we were having companies go there and get changed out one at a time. And the officer that was on duty said, "Hey, come see this on the news." And we're looking at it, and it's the Trade Tower fire. And it actually didn't look like much from the distance that shot was coming from. But obviously we found out later it was a plane that went into the.
Yeah.
But it because the footage was coming from such a great distance, it just looked like a fire in a high-rise. So okay, we'll watch that, and they had cameras on it, and I went back doing my thing, and all of a sudden we hear the other tower's on fire now. It got hit by an aircraft. So I literally, myself and that officer, we walked out onto the middle of Grand Avenue, and we both shaded our eyes and looked downtown. We're looking downtown to see if we got hit, see if there's anything going on. And there wasn't. And at that time, there was an evacuation of the city. The downtown area was evacuated. Mm-hmm. Everyone went home. And then later on, in fact, probably that evening, the fire department was looking for volunteers to go to New York. Well, probably every firefighter in the city volunteered for it. But unfortunately, they were only taking 50. So anybody that wanted to go, you'd do a two-from, a Form 2, we call it. And I submitted mine. I wanted to go, but 50 people were selected to go.
Right.
They went. I believe there was another group that relieved them later. Now, what I did have opportunity to do, and this wasn't until October, but there was kind of a message sent out by New York that they were looking for support, and they were looking for people to attend funerals and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So a bunch of us from my battalion, we went and we got, I think it was American Airlines that provided free airfare, and we got a hotel in Manhattan and stuff. So, mm-hmm. We were taken care of as far as that goes. But we went there for that purpose, just for support, attending funerals, visiting firehouses, that type of thing. We did go to Ground Zero, but not to work, unfortunately. Yeah. It was. We got to see it.
And it was a month later. Was it was still a problem?
It was still going on.
Disarray, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just unfathomable, right? To be in that situation as a fireman, like there's nothing you could do. Nothing you could do.
I mean, I tell people years later, I went to see they have a 9/11 museum, and when I don't know if you've been there, but there's
yes, I have. Mm-hmm.
apparatus. There's a fire apparatus mm-hmm. in the museum. And when I got to I didn't expect this. I got goosebumps. Yeah. I got goosebumps. Oh my God, what's this?
Yeah.
Just from seeing that rig.
Yeah, it's a tough place to be. They got the people phone calls in there and stuff.
Right.
It definitely is tough. But why did they limit it to 50? Do you know? What was the reasoning for that?
Well, first of all, there was an uncontrolled number of people coming there, mm-hmm. and word got out real quick that we got too many people helping. And people are going to get hurt because there's unaccountability, and the word got out. Let's limit it. And plus, our operational needs. We could.
Yeah.
We're paying these guys to go, so we couldn't afford to do much more than that. So there was like a convoy that went, and a bunch of apparatus and tools. And we went there on our own without an invite. And so did other departments from around the nation showed up. So you had a lot of uncontrolled. And eventually New York Fire Department kind of had to take control and say, hey, we appreciate your help, but we need more accountability of who's on site. So
what's going on?
Yeah.
As far as I don't know if it's what we call a detail or whatnot, but what do you think is like the toughest detail? What's the most interesting detail? And what I mean by that is like the people who are on like the dive team.
Oh,
like is there one that people don't know about that's like, whoa, is there like a helicopter detail or something like that? Like,
there is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's an assignment.
Yeah.
So we have a group called Air Sea Rescue, and it includes what's called a dive truck. And it's a group of divers on a truck that responds to any incidents inland or Lake Michigan shoreline. And then we also have a helicopter that responds with divers. So any kind of water incident, whether or not, you'd have to ask the members of the fire department if that's desired or not. I will say the Marine unit on the police side is very desired, and there's a line of people trying to get into it. I don't know if that's the case in Chicago. If you're a diver and you want to get into air sea rescue, I think eventually you'll get in. I don't think that's an issue. I don't think there's firemen knocking the doors down to get into it necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah, but is it a good detail? There's advantages to it, and there's a lot of people that go into that unit that are very health conscious, and because they know that they're going to be training, they're going to be swimming almost on a daily basis, and whether or not that's your gig or not, that depends. That depends.
Yeah.
We have an OFI section, that's Office of Fire Investigation. Those are guys that come to the scene and determine the cause of the fire. Mm-hmm. There's attraction to some people that want to go to that.
So is that De Niro in Backdraft?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But a lot of those folks will think that they want to do that, and then they get into the unit and they find out, hey, this is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. So there's physical work behind it too. Digging. You got to dig, and you're looking for the seat of the fire. We have a fire prevent. Again, there's not people knocking the door down. If that's something that you really want to do, it's doable. Mm-hmm. We have a fire prevention bureau. It's a separate bureau, a separate entity that does inspections. Definitely, people aren't knocking the door down to get in there.
No,
by no means. In fact, any firefighter that wants to go into that unit, I don't think it'd be an issue.
And what's that mean? You're looking at like capacity at places. You're looking to make sure
that's part of it. It's more
good.
Annual inspections. So you're going through. You're looking for violations like combustibles that are too close, fire extinguishers that are out of date, exit signs, that type of thing.
Going to a kitchen and there's just a grease over the hood on a
that
thing,
kind of stuff.
Like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine people are beating down the door to
They're
do
not.
that.
They're not. No.
There's no way.
No.
There's no way. And then obviously there's the academy teachers.
Got academy teachers that are, most of which are detailed from the field to accommodate a class.
Yeah.
So, and that's the way we want it. We don't want people to be assigned to the academy because they kind of lose respect, if you will. Mm-hmm. A guy that's been at the academy his whole career,
Yeah.
What are you going to teach me? So we want people that are detailed from the field, that are firefighters, and might stay there for a class and then leave.
Oh, so it kind of rotates and out.
It rotates.
Okay.
That's a typical instructor. Yeah. Now, we do have people that are assigned to the academy that stay there, but the ones that get the respect from the candidates are the ones that are detailed from the field.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's not just the guy who could yell the loudest or something.
Correct.
Like that. Yeah. Is there something about like, what's the toughest thing to emulate though, from being in an academy to being in a fire? Like, what's something people just don't understand about being in a burning building? Is there anything?
Well, as a civilian or people, their very first day, the thing that people don't understand, they see fires on TV, and the one thing about a fire that you see on TV is that you can see everything in the room. Well, you may as well be a blind man and a blind person in a fire. You can't see anything. There's no visibility, none. So get used to crawling around without being able to see at all. So you're going to have to feel your way around, and that's what we teach candidates to do. We do everything with what we call a blacked out mask where they can't see.
And they don't they do that like maze thing too? Where they
we do mazes, yeah.
I've heard about that training thing.
Sure.
That you got to like fit through a ladder or something.
There's all kind of little areas that you got to. In one area, you have to take off your SCBA. You have to take it off and move it ahead of you. So a little bit of a challenge. Probably not realistic unless you're trying to get out. You're not going to do that to get into a building. But you might be in a situation where a collapse has occurred where you might have to actually do that to get through a small opening.
To get out, yeah. And I going back to what we just talked about too. So then what made you want to be the Deputy Fire Commissioner of Operations?
So we have two categories. We have what are called, we have promoted ranks, okay, and that goes up to the rank of battalion chief. And that rank, battalion chief, is currently a part of the union. And then beyond that, we have what's called exempt rank. So when I was a battalion chief, I was asked by the person that was about to be the director of training at the academy to be the assistant. And he was told by the commissioner at the time, you can pick whoever you want. So we met at a location, actually in Cicero, at a pancake house. And he told me, hey, I want you to be my assistant director. And I said, let me think on that. And that was the first step to exempt rank. And from that point, I stayed in the academy. Well, let me put it this way. I got out of the academy as soon as I could. It took me 5 years. But I was promoted to the rank of district chief, and I was a director of safety. And I moved up. They kept asking me, and I kept taking a promotion. Now, the difference between those exempt rank promotions are that they're all appointed. So, which good and bad, but actually back in the day, all those kinds of positions were tested. And I would love to see that come back, where there's an actual test that you take. But currently, right now, it's an appointed position. It's appointed by the fire commissioner. So the commissioner knows about you or learns about you, sees a position's open, and asks you to fill it.
Gotcha. So, I mean, appointed positions, it could be great or it could be bad, right? It could be someone who appoints all people who aren't great. Then,
of course.
But if it's someone who appoints people who are great, it's like, hey, this system works. We got the right leader on top, and they're going to.
And it's not always the case.
Yeah, it's not always the
But
case. No.
on the flip side, tested position too, you can get a person that's not the right person.
For sure, they're just good at a test. And they're
there's pros and cons.
Yeah, like you could be good at a test and you could not be a great leader.
Exactly.
There's that happens. Is there, when you think back on your career, is there a fire that you think about most?
A particular fire that I think about most. I think we just came up on the anniversary of one that occurred. I was actually what they call a safety officer, but it was 135 South LaSalle, and it was a LaSalle Bank fire. Again, it's a commercial building that was not sprinkled. It is now. There were a lot of concerns about that, and this doesn't happen often. So we have multiple floors, which you don't see often. It does happen. And there was concern about the building collapsing. It got to that point where we're going to have a building an engineer, a structural engineer, actually come and make an assessment while the building's on fire still.
Wow.
We had difficulty really getting to the seat of that fire. We ended up using actually one of the battalion chiefs. I'll say his name, Nick Lino. He brought it to my attention. Hey, there's a roof adjoining the building that's on fire, and we could use what's called a point of vantage, which is setting up hose streams and basically hitting it from the outside. And I brought it to the attention of the incident commander at the time and said, yeah, let's go for it. I think he ultimately, Nick Lino actually probably saved that building, and the reason it's still up. But I think it was going to keep going, and we had multiple firefighters that went down at that particular fire.
Really? It's a bad one, huh?
Yeah, we had probably upwards. I think we had 20 firefighters that went to the hospital.
Wow.
And I always tell this funny story about I went to Cook County Stroger Hospital to visit one of them, and I'll say his name, John Collins. So John was he was a captain of Squad 1 at the time, and kind of a fireman's fireman, real gruff. He had a raspy voice, always has a raspy voice. But when I got to the ER, John was intubated already. He had a tube put down his throat. And the doctor told me that, yeah, he had a little bit of soot in his upper airway. We looked in his upper airway, which is probably going to be found in any firefighter. Mm-hmm. And he told me his voice was raspy. So we made a decision to intubate him. And I said, oh, shit. This is normal. Yeah, he's probably got soot in his nose all the time, and he always thought he has a raspy voice. So he was not happy when he was extubated the next day or next couple of days. He wasn't happy with that decision.
Yeah, that's him. Have you ever saved anyone's life? Have you ever grabbed someone out?
Oh yeah,
from that perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
What's the technical term? Obviously you saved many lives.
So made a grab.
Okay.
Actually, the one that first occurred to me, I was brand new on the job, and normally engines don't throw ladders, but we were on top of this fire, and it was on Warren Boulevard, and it was a lady in the second floor window, not a big deal. Maybe it was on the third floor. It was an upper floor, and our ladder on our engine is only 24 foot. It didn't make it to her. So literally myself and the engineer put this ladder up on a chain link fence, and the engineer's holding it on to make sure it doesn't fall off the chain link fence. And I went up and really assisted her down the ladder. She wasn't going to die. Let's put it that way. There was a smoke condition up there and brought her down. I probably made a handful of grabs of people that did not live. So they were dead, taken out, and then CPR was performed. The ones that usually warrant some kind of an award, and we see that a lot, are the people that ultimately live. Mm-hmm. Now, we have a much better EMS system that we had than what we had years ago. Mm-hmm. And paramedics now are they're phenomenal what they do. So the chances are when you get somebody out of a burning building, if they're not breathing and they don't have a heartbeat, there's a fairly good chance that they're going to get them back.
Yeah, just
fairly good.
Not too late anymore, like how it was or just not even enough training, not even enough.
Even on our part,
yeah.
I mean, firemen barely knew CPR, let alone any other advanced techniques. The other factor too, we have an ambulance on the scene of every fire. We didn't have that years ago. There was none dispatched unless there was a need for it.
That's another thing that's hard to.
It's hard
imagine.
Hard to grasp.
It's hard to. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
So now you have an ambulance that's dispatched immediately. So they're going to be there right now, right? Yeah. But back in the day, no ambulance until there was a call for one. But the initial response was actually 2 engines, a truck, and a battalion chief. And if we made a grab, they were going to get fireman CPR, which probably wasn't the best, and have to wait for an ambulance.
Yeah. As far as services go, something you always hear is that like a baby gets dropped off at the firehouse. Have you ever had that? Is that a real thing? Is that a myth?
Well, it has happened. I've never had it personally. Yeah. So we became an official drop-off location. If somebody, for whatever reason, instead of doing something else with this baby, drop them off at a firehouse. Mm-hmm. I've been indirectly involved, getting, especially in the upper echelon where firehouses have received a baby, and so I've never had it.
How many times would that happen, like a year?
Oh, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
It's not that frequent.
It's not
that frequent. You'd probably hear about it on the news if it did. So yeah.
Do you, on that note, I guess I gotta say, do you like the cat in the tree?
Never did one.
Never did.
Yeah, we don't respond to cats in trees.
It's not true. Yeah, right.
We don't. I mean, there's some departments, I'm sure, volunteer departments that do the cat in the tree jobs, but we don't do them.
A cop made up that joke or something?
Well, it does happen nationally.
Yeah.
It does.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. But it's something that we never. I shouldn't say never. We shouldn't have been dispatched to such a thing. Yeah.
All right, then. Is there anything else we didn't get to here? That as far as Chicago Fire Department was, I feel like we covered a lot.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
Anything else? Any other stories or anything like that really stick? I'm sure you got a million. The Firehouse prank, or like some other fire, anything like that?
Oh, I'll give you a quick little prank. So we used to have a device. It was a communication device called a register, and it would spit out a ticker tape, if you will, with the box location. So I was a young firefighter, and we had what was called a relief engineer in our firehouse one day. So I was on watch, which meant I was in charge of communications at the early part of the evening from 10 o'clock. And this engineer happened to be up front with me, just watching the news. And prior to him coming up, because I knew he was going to be there, I had a fishing line attached to this ticker tape. So I could manipulate that ticker tape and make it register a box alarm. Mm-hmm. So I had my hand underneath the table, and I'm pulling this fishing line, making this register go off. And I had a predetermined location that I picked out. It was 42nd and Halstead that I picked out just randomly. So he goes up and he checks the tape, and he checks what's called a response box card. And he said, "Oh yeah, we're due on a 311 or whatever." Okay, good. And I just remained seated there, and I did it again. I did a extra alarm response, and he gets up and he's looking at me like, "Why are you just sitting here?" Anyway, long story short, we get to a 511, and we were. Well, I said we were due on a 311. We must not have been due on a 311. No, we were not. Maybe due to change. Whatever it was. Anyway, it got to the point, the early part, where he literally went to the rig, knowing that we were on the box, and started up the rig, opened up the overhead door. He had the lights going, and everyone else in the house knew what was going on. And all of a sudden, all these guys come out of the kitchen, and they're laughing at him because there is no fire at 42nd and Western. And prior to this is in the middle of the winter. He gets up, like at the 311 level, opens up the overhead door. He goes out in the middle of Kedzie, and he's looking in the direction of 42nd and Kedzie. I go, "Get back in here before you get hit by a car." So I don't know if it sounds funny to you, but it had the house roaring. Yeah,
no, that is good. I mean, just sending the guy out there when there's nothing there. It's great. And then what else? What are you up to now?
So when I retired, actually before I retired, my wife Margaret said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I'm going to sit on the beach and drink margaritas. What else would you do when you retire?" She said, "No, you're not. So you better find something to do." So my wife and I took concealed carry training right when the state allowed it, which was 2013 is when we took the class. And she kind of indicated, "Hey, this would be a nice side gig for you, a nice thing to do at retirement or whatever." And I retired a few years later in 2017, and I started a business teaching concealed carry. So we call it Nielsen Defense. And in the 5 years of operation, we started in 2018, we've trained just under 1,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it got pretty crazy, like around COVID and with riots going on, and a lot of people wanted to learn how to defend themselves, and we had a lot of phone calls with people that wanted to get concealed carry. However, if you look at the state statistics, we're just a little bit over 2% of people that qualify to get a concealed carry card that actually have one. About 2% of the state.
Wow. So how often are you teaching classes then?
So I got one this weekend. If anyone's interested, I have a couple openings, and they're usually once a month, Eddie. But I do them more often if it's needed. The thing about the class is it's full. It's a 16-hour class, and to get people to commit to 2 days is what we do. We usually do it in a weekend. We do a Saturday, Sunday combination, 2 8-hour days. We do have sometimes military and former police officers that want to do this too, former police officers. I always say former cops that saw the light and now they're firemen. And they can't carry a gun now, and they want to carry a gun, and they could take just the second day, and it's at a reduced price. And we're very competitive with the price, and we make deep dish pizza, homemade. That's part of the deal on day one, and we have Tony's subs on day 2.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So how can people find it? How could they sign up for a class?
So I'll give my phone number, and they can text me, or my phone number is public information. It's 224-935-0204. You can text me or call me, and like I say, we pretty much have classes at least once a month, sometimes more frequently.
Perfect. So go sign up for that if you're interested in getting
And also, the state requires what's called a recertification class. After 5 years, I do those as well. So the recertification class is only a 3-hour class, and if anyone already has their concealed carry and they're up for recert, I do that class as well.
Perfect. We should know, too, you got 2 kids that are on the department, too. So
I do.
It stayed in the family, so.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
All right, awesome. Mark, thanks for coming in. This was fun. Very interesting.
It was fun for me too. Thanks, Eddie.
Great. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Another episode tomorrow, doing a bonus episode. Jordan Lynch, head coach of Mount Carmel High School, as well as former Heisman finalist. He'll be joining me tomorrow. So really fun interview, especially if you're into local high school Illinois football. So check that out tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow, and then we'll see you Monday after that. So that's it.